Hello, everyone. Welcome to Canadian music in the 80s and 90s and more. Hope you like what you see. If you do, please subscribe and click the like button, if you will. I'm very happy to be joined by Mark Gane of Martha and the Muffins, who I'm sure you're all quite familiar with. Um, but we're here to talk about something new you've come up. Well, it's not new. It came out in May, didn't it?
It did, yeah. So it's semi-new, I guess.
Um, and it's Garden Music is the name of the project. How long has this been in the works?
At least 25 years.
25
Uh,
years. Wow.
yeah, yeah. No joke, that's true. I started it when Martha's and my daughter was a little girl. Martha suggested you need to do a solo album because I'd helped her with her projects, and she said pick the things that you really like to do. So I do like to garden. I do like to paint, and I like to make music. So other than the painting thing, which was kind of part of the idea in the early days, it that kind of dropped out of the equation. But so I started working on it way back then, and probably got a lot of stuff done. And then it got put on the shelf for various reasons. There was always some other Martha and Muffins project to do. There were some health issues. Life just kind of kept getting in the way, or it kept getting sidelined. And anyway, about the second year of COVID, I just decided I really had to get on with it. So I devoted a whole year to finishing it off. And then inexplicably, I sat on it for 2 years before releasing it in May. It was all done 2 years ago. I can't give you any rational reason why I sat on it. I've said to other people I'm completely happy about the results. So it wasn't like I was going, oh my God, what are people going to think or what any of that. I didn't. It just sat there, and so it finally came out, which brings us to the here and now.
So what was it that made you really buckle down and get back to it? Was it hard to go back to after working on it for so long and being away from it for a while?
No, because I think I dipped into it over all those years. Late at night I'd go, oh, let's go back into that and see where we are. And it was always inspiring to do so. So I think when I finally decided I had to get on with it, I just realized I'm a certain age. I probably have a limited number of years left, hopefully a lot more, but they're still,
Right.
limited, and I just better get to it. I did want people to hear it. I thought I've got to get this done. Um, and with the help of my long-term friend and audio associate, Ray Dillard, he helped me mix it. He did a phenomenal job on that. And then it was ready, which was, it felt like quite a weight off my back just to get it done. I don't know. Other people are so prolific. I don't know how they do it. They release, 3 albums a year or something. Here I'm, one album every 25 years.
Right.
It can't go on like that.
Well, it means you're busy, so that can't be a bad thing.
No, no, that's true. Yeah.
Um, this is this your first ever pretty much on your own kind of project, or have you toyed with stuff before that?
Well, um, this is a very long timeline because I was doing experimental music before I was doing Martha and the Muffins type songs before the band. So
Right.
way back, in the mid '70s at the Ontario College of Art, which was the art college in Toronto that's now OCAD University. But back then, it was much less academic. It was much more free. And there was a sound lab, which was a very modest, basic studio.
Right.
And that's where I worked. And I had a lot of great teachers. I mean, I had Udo Kasmetz as an instructor who was originally from Eastern Europe and kind of developed his own musical tastes and sensibilities based a lot on John Cage and So he was a great teacher. The whole experimental arts faculty at OCA was great. You had people like Michael Snow and Graham Coffey doing uh, gigs in the annex, which was the experimental arts building, and they founded the music gallery one block over from the college. So there was a lot going on there, and so I was pretty deeply immersed in all of that from an early stage.
Right. Now, could I ask you a bit about the instrumentation you use to record a lot of this? Like, did you record it in your own, do you record in your own studio or did you do it in other studios as well?
No, we have a pretty good little home studio that we've done a lot of Martha and Muffins work here, and that whole thing was put together in our home studio. A lot of it was made up of field recordings and miscellaneous recordings that I've literally been collecting for 40 plus years. And
Really?
whenever, yeah, and early on when they started making actually decent quality portable cassette recorders, that we had a really nice little Sony that had a built-in limiter, and it made really great recordings. So whenever we heard a great noise, we would just record it. So that might be like crickets in a field, when we were staying at a
Hmm.
farm or something. It might be the falling rain and or whatever, or just weird stuff, or maybe we had a great synthesizer patch that we didn't know what to do with, so we'd record it. And all of this stuff culminated over all these decades. So a lot of this project was going through all that material and going, okay, so what would this song sound like? And I go searching for sounds and I go, okay, that's cool. We'll start with that. I mean, you have to start somewhere.
Right, for
And I
sure.
would, yeah, you have to start somewhere. So arbitrarily, I would go, okay, I have my list of common plant names. What would Johnny Jump Up be like? And as I worked, a lot of these things developed in my mind. It was very intuitive. So I didn't go, oh, I've got to get this sound that sounds like this. I would just work with what I came across, and I would build from there. So a lot of it was organic sound field tapes. A lot of it was, um, I have a EMS Synthi A, which is a very old modular synthesizer, which I still use. And I think people that own those still love them a lot.
Yeah.
They make really weird squonky noises and like insect noises and birdie sounds, and a lot of that went into it as well.
Um, I've listened to some of it today and yesterday. It's definitely really interesting soundscapes to it. Like I really enjoyed, and it's something I think probably should listen to with headphones. I think anyway.
Yes.
I mean, because
Yeah.
I tried listening to some of it on a speaker, but I found when I put the headphones on, I could really get a better take on what was coming out. And it's definitely interesting soundscapes, and I really like it a lot. Is it something you might do live at all? Is it something you can do, or would it be very difficult to pull off?
Well, somebody else asked me that question not so long ago, and it made me think about it. I thought, well, it could be live um, if we use some of the stuff as backing material, and then we
Right,
improvise it. And so they would sound different, but they might have a degree of similarity to the album, and
right.
that could be interesting. But the first idea that I had about this was we would do it live in a sense that I would try and create small, intimate evenings or events where everybody would be invited to bring a pillow and a yoga mat or whatever,
Yeah.
and we would listen to the whole album in its entirety in the dark.
Oh,
And then at
yeah.
the end, the lights would go on. We'd have a Q&A, and you could buy the CD if you wanted, or ask any questions or whatever. And I still like that idea a lot because, in a way, it's kind of live in a weird way.
Yeah.
And and depriving people of any visuals. Because somebody said, well, would you do visuals with that? And I thought, yeah, that's possible. But one of my main aims with this was to make people focus. Because we're all faced with way too much
Yeah.
stimulation all the time. And I realize it's a really big ask to say, I want, if you can, put on headphones, lie down in a
Yeah.
dark room, and listen to it in its entirety. Because it was very carefully sequenced and planned to make it like a beginning to end trip, basically. And I know that's asking a lot of people, but I think all music, no matter how weird or esoteric, attracts an audience. So I think people that are already open to kind of experimental music would be into that. And so if I decide to go, yes, we're going to have a venue like this, wherever that is, maybe,
Right.
for a few $100, I invite, people invite me to their living room and I come in with a
Right.
sound system, whatever. I haven't thought it completely through yet, but I like that idea. But what you're suggesting could be a whole other approach as well, Alan. Like it could go that way too.
Like, because I'm thinking, I was thinking it might be difficult to bring a lot of those sounds. Like, I don't know if you would want to do it as one person or have somebody with you to help you do that as well. But I know recently I saw Mid-Year live,
Right?
and he was doing this band in a box thing where it's a lot cheaper for him to tour that way because you don't bring a whole band with you. He brings
Yeah.
one keyboard player with him and most of the backup noises on a computer, and he plays the guitar as well, so it makes it easier to and more financially viable to tour like that. But would that be something you could do as well, or would you bring other people to help you put this together if you were to do something like that?
Yeah, if I were to go in that direction, I definitely want at least one other person. And I think with this type of music and the way it was constructed, it would be virtually impossible to replicate it live uh, in an exact version of the album.
Right,
So I think, having thought about this a bit further, that if we were to do that, it would be, yeah, you could have elements, maybe the key elements, it's the spine of the
right,
live thing. We would improvise freely over it. So it would be kind of like what you heard on the album, but it would be a fresh version as well. So
right.
that's intriguing. That is intriguing.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. The other thing I was thinking about is like I haven't listened to all of it yet, but I've listened to a few of the tracks twice, and I hear something else every time. Like when you listen to it multiple times, you hear something that you didn't catch the first time, which I find incredibly interesting. And that's what I've always liked. That I like that part of music too. Sometimes, you think you know a song over so many years, but you listen to it on headphones and listen to it in a different way, and you're like, wait a minute, I never heard that before. So that's what I find interesting about the tracks when I listen to them this morning, even for a couple for the second time. I was like, wait, I don't remember hearing that the first time. So
Yeah.
was that something intentional or
Um, Not specifically, although I've always admired, some of my favorite records have been like that too. And maybe like even 10 years later, you'd be listening to the same thing, you go, hold on, what's that?
yeah.
I
Yeah.
never noticed that before. And maybe it was a function of, deteriorating hearing or the way your headphones are or whatever. But I did want this to be very, um, I was going to say complex, but I don't necessarily mean complex. I wanted it to be very detailed and interesting, and maybe I did have that goal in mind, but maybe subconsciously that, because it's always been a part of my listening that I
Right.
that I always valued those things that, that kind of music, whatever it is, it could be pop music or whatever, and you go, oh, that's great. I never heard that. So yeah, maybe that was an underlying goal, but maybe not a major goal. But my working methodologies for this kind of music hasn't really changed in 40 years. I'm just better at it, and everything's more sophisticated. When I was doing sound like droney drift music back in 1977, the sensibilities were still there. They were just early on for me.
Right. The other thing I kind of thought of when I was listening to it was like you were talking about some of the visuals and stuff like that. Like I could see it being used in film, maybe as a film score or something like that. I don't know if that's something you were thinking about as well.
I wasn't in terms of doing this album and getting it done, but I think as a songwriter, it's always interesting to see what you've created, what paths that you didn't predict, what paths your music goes on. And I think if somebody came forward and I respected their work as a filmmaker, I'd be happy to use, whatever they wanted to use from that. Yeah, because people have said, yes, a lot of it is very filmic,
Right.
and it is meant to, I think, conjure up pictures in your own head. Again, this is why I want people to be in a low light environment with headphones. I want you to experience it personally, and whatever you come up with is as much of interest to me as what I came up with when I was halfway through some of this stuff, and I went, "Oh, now I'm getting what it means." Like now, like something like I don't know which
Right.
ones you've heard, but like Creeping Charlie, when it started falling together, it sort of asked more questions than it answered. Like I'm going, okay, so Creeping Charlie, is this all going on in his head? Or is it a narrative where we're watching him stroll through this nocturnal environment full of these weird noises and stuff? And what's the goal? What is he going to axe murder somebody?
Yeah.
What's happening? But I don't really have any answers. Like other people could say, no, I heard this and that. And that's what I find fascinating, about putting something like this out, that you're going to have your interpretation and I'm not spoon feeding you. It's up to
Right.
your imagination.
Is that something you like with all the music you've made over your all the music you made? Do you like hearing other people's interpretations of it? Like, is it something you're interested in hearing?
Yeah, I would have to say it's one of the most rewarding things about this. Even something, like Echo Beach and what people thought about it or what they were experiencing at the time. It doesn't matter what kind of music, but I've always thought that was, for both Martha and myself, one of the most rewarding things about being a songwriter, that actually, who are allowed to send music out into the world and have had some sort of success with it over the years, that people come back, and a lot of the creative things that we've seen other people do with some of our songs is, it's just mind blowing, and it kind of counterbalances all the crap about the music business, because it's a foul business, really,
Yeah,
and to have that kind of interest from people, and some of whom have gone to great lengths to explain what they got out of certain things. It counterbalances all the bullshit that goes on all the time.
definitely. I can see that. It's also interesting because I mean, you've done so much different kinds of music over the years, but one of the things I really like to push on my channel is that you are still making music. You keep making music, and I really like to push that with these artists. Like I know you're known for what you did 30, 40 years ago, and it's great stuff, but I really like to push that you're still doing what you do, and it deserves as much thought and attention as the old stuff does, I think, anyway. And I'm always curious to hear what's going to be new coming out of people like yourself. Um, I mean, I find it interesting because I mean, you age, obviously. You're not the same person you were 40 years ago or 30 years ago or whatever. So it's always interesting to hear what take you have on what you're doing now.
Yes, and I think having finally put this project out, it encourages me to get on with another project that I've been working on in the same fashion, probably not quite as long a time, maybe more like 15 years. I don't know. But, and it's quite different. It's more like a conventional song album based around um, a love affair, a doomed love affair that takes place in a doomed kind of landscape. And by doomed landscape, I mean kind of like the suburbs, where it's all hydro towers and dead farmland and stuff like that. And the landscape is like a metaphor for these two people where as intense as the relationship is, it's going to fail. And it fails against this backdrop of, and I can talk about the suburbs like that because I grew up in them, so it's not like I'm sort of above all of it and I'm slagging, the suburbs. I mean, there were a lot of great things about growing up in the suburbs, but I'm of an age where there was still a lot of farmland around Toronto, and we watched it slowly disappear like a big wave, and one year you would be living across a farm, and the next year it would be bulldozed, and then the next year there'd be houses on it. And somehow I think that played into this idea. So that's one idea. And then because there's only 11 pieces on garden music, I thought, well, what if I did a garden music volume two? Because I've
Mm.
certainly got enough other common plant names that would be equally inspiring for me to do something with. I think originally I had about 30 names, and you got to start somewhere. So I just went, okay, these 11 I'm going to run with. But there were an equal number of other intriguing names that I could have done something with.
You just answered my next question. I was going to say, was there stuff left over that you could make a volume two or something like that? So you kind of
Yeah,
answered my next
yeah,
question.
yes,
So,
or I mean that sound library. I mean, I could probably do another, I don't know, 10 albums with just stuff from it.
wow.
Whether that would be another garden music one or just something else, I don't know yet. But I think the next thing for me, anyway, from a solo point of view, might be that album I just described, and it's got a tentative name. It's called Beautiful Vaughn,
Oh,
and
okay.
it doesn't refer to the city of Vaughan, which is just north of Ontario, of Toronto.
Right.
It could be a woman's name. It could be the name of a place or woman's name, but that's the tentative title. But insofar as Martha and the Muffins, we are about to start working on putting out this live at Ontario Place
Okay.
tape that from 1983 that's been sitting around since then. And our manager has kept bugging us about putting it out, and he's right. We should have put it out years ago, but we're starting to work on that now. So there's lots of other things as well.
Will there be video footage for that? Is there a video footage of that show as well?
Unfortunately, no. We paid for the mobile recording, and Dan Lanois was the person who recorded, and of course his sister was in the band at that time, and it was a great band, and it sounds great. We had monitor tapes of it that we'd listened to over the years, and that band was crazy hot, and there was a lot of really cool stuff going on. Um, but sadly, in retrospect, I really wish we'd been able to film it. It would have been great, So unfortunately, it's just going to be an audio release, but we are going to do a shout out fairly soon to any fan that might have any footage of all, whether it's still photos or, at that time, video cameras were pretty primitive, but any kind of visual imagery and see if we can get some stuff that way. So we could put together some sort of visual component with it.
Oh, that's exciting to hear that. I guess that was my next question. Hope you don't mind me asking stuff about Martha and the Muffins as well. Um,
Yeah.
is there anything else in the vault that you could think of that could possibly see light of day sometime? Like,
There's lots of archival stuff. We have a few other concerts. We did a very pared down concert at the Music Gallery in Toronto, probably 15 years ago, maybe,
mhm.
that we never released. Our manager, we did another evening at the Rivoli in Toronto that was a tribute to Martha and the Muffins, and all these younger artists did cover versions.
Oh,
And there
wow.
were some phenomenal, and that was all filmed and recorded. And perhaps one of the highlights of that evening was Mary Margaret O'Hara doing a song that we never released that only exists on our YouTube channel
Oh,
called House Dog Baby. And we said you can pick any song from our repertoire.
right.
And of course, being Mary Margaret, she went that one, and it never came. It was never released on any album, and it's actually a great. You should check it out. It's on the YouTube site. It's called House Dog Baby, and we did it in Martha's mother's house when she sold it in Thornhill. So Martha and I played this song in a suburban house with a picture window at the back, in front with a typically suburban road going by, and it came out really well. And so Mary was quite attracted to that and did a killer version of it. She just killed it that night.
I'll have to put a link to that in my description on YouTube if you don't mind.
Not at all.
So
Yeah.
anyone can watch it and stuff like that. That's interesting. I mean, it must be cool hearing interpretations of your music by other people too, not just what they think of the music or their idea of what the songs are about, but to hear them play your music for you. Like it
Yeah.
must be really interesting to hear that.
Yeah, and the versions were quite different in a lot of ways, which, again, I'm less interested in people that do, note for note versions, cover versions of our songs. I'm more interested in the ones that do bring themselves into it and reinterpret
Hmm.
it, which is what we like to do when we do cover songs too. Like I'm not, when we did For What It's Worth by Buffalo Springfield, I think when we last talked, we weren't into doing, the same thing they did because that's
Right.
uh, unsurpassable, really, and you have to bring your own thing to it.
It's like Sarah McLachlan did a cover of Dear God, the XTC song, and she did it totally different, but it's one of my favorite versions of that song. I
Yeah,
don't,
yeah.
I don't know if you've heard that yourself, but it's one of my
No, but
favorite.
I'm gonna make a note of that. Yeah, just because they're a great band, and
Absolutely. Probably an influence on you as well.
yeah, yeah. I mean, again, there was that period when the music industry opened up and all these weird bands came in. You think of
Right,
Heads and Pere Ubu and B-52s and
right,
XTC were pretty quirky. There's a lot of bands in the West Country of England that are kind of have their own thing. Like I think the Stranglers were from there, and Tears for Fears, Peter Gabriel,
right.
XTC. It's interesting what the Bath Bristol area has. I think King Crim like people about Fripp from King Crimson.
Right.
Um, yeah, interesting sensibilities.
One more question before I call this. What would you feel about it? Is there any way you'd be open to a documentary about you guys? Because a lot of great Canadian bands have had some really interesting documentaries released. I don't know if you've seen Blue Rodeos recently or if you've seen the Spirit of the West one, which is my personal favorite one because they're one of my favorite bands of all time. Doug and the Slugs had a really good documentary. Would that be something you'd be open to? Because I think it would be a really interesting one to watch.
Yeah, definitely. There's been talk about that over the years, and nothing's kind of come of it. But I should mention that there's a professor of sociology at Vassar College in upstate New York named Leonard uh, Neverez, and for 10 years he's been working on a book about Martha and the Muffins.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
That's great.
he's actually the expert on our band. He knows more about us than we do. And being out of the academic world, his research is impeccable. He did a whole series of essays on the migration of weird people from Thornhill, the suburb, north of Toronto, migrating to the Queen Street West scene and making it having a huge influence on what happened there. Um, and so he's been working on this book, and of course, COVID has put a wrench into a lot of things, and I think
Right.
everything has just slowed down for him. But he does have a really good blog site. I think if you just Google Leonard Neverez, you'd find it. But or Vassar College and Leonard Neverez. But he interviewed many members of the band extensively. He made several field trips up here, took photos of family homes, and went to places that were areas that we frequented back in the day. A lot of them, of course, are gone now,
Right.
um, but at some point, we're hoping his book's going to come out, and that is almost like it would probably be even more in depth than a documentary. I mean, a documentary would be great for sure. It'd be a welcome thing. Um, there is a documentary which isn't quite the same, but when we released this song that helped promote Parkinson's disease a year ago, because of course Martha has that, um, Toronto filmmaker Jason Ciperone made a 20-minute documentary about her story. So there is stuff out there.
Right.
But what you're talking about is like a real band history of a band kind of thing.
For sure. I just think it would be I mean, you guys are right up there with a lot of the great Canadian bands I've seen documentaries on. I mean, I don't know if you saw the Spirit of the West one. It focused on the band's history and on, I don't know if you knew John Mann's, he had Alzheimer's.
Yes, I heard about that, which is terrible. But and I haven't seen the documentary yet. But yeah, that was sad news.
I know such a great band, great songwriters, great guys. I've met them several times. I've seen them more than 20 times, I think, in my lifetime. They've always been one of my favorite bands, and it was just sad to see John go like that.
Yeah,
And it's kind of interesting. I find it interesting that in the same year we lost Spirit of the West, Rush, and the Tragically Hip, all to illness.
it's. I think it's one of the less desirable functions of getting older is
Right,
that people around you, far and near, and people that are intimate to your lives, to your life, and people that are, from being well known or famous, just start going, and um, we've certainly had that in our lives, and of course, the first wave of rock musicians are
right,
starting to go now. I mean, King Crimson's been one of my all-time favorite bands, and within the last few years, a lot of the members of that band have passed away, including Peter Sinfield, who was the band's early lyricist, who was
right.
a huge influence on me in high school. And I actually still have, I think, a grade 12 or 13 English project where I analyzed all of his lyrics. And I thought, it was only a few years ago. I thought, God, I should send him a copy of this. It might be, I mean, I would be really interested if somebody in high school, sent me an essay that they wrote about our lyric. I think it'd be fascinating.
Yeah,
Sadly, he's not here to see it. But yeah, it's just, it's going to be happening more and more. And it's just it's the nature of still being alive. Like we're still here, but we have to
right.
witness, you know?
Yeah. One positivity I can take out of it, which I think is, it's not really a positivity, is that we're losing some of them now because they are getting older, not because of they've, overdosed on drugs or something like that, or been killed. So I guess it's good that they've lived their life. Like, I mean, we saw the way Ozzy died last week. It wasn't because of, I mean, I'm sure he's done enough excess to himself over the years, but he didn't die because of it.
No, and it's kind of a miracle that he didn't, really, considering what
Yeah.
you about his life. Well, it's like that with Keith Richard too. I mean, how is that guy still alive? I mean, a few years ago, he fell out of a tree.
Willie
That would
Nelson
kill a
too.
lot
How
of
is he
people.
still alive?
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, you just don't know, right? So, but I mean, I'm glad to see them live their lives out. Like I said, not because of drug overdoses or anything like that. Like it was a common thing at one time.
yeah, yeah,
The 27 factor, I guess, was the big thing, right? So
yeah.
many people we lost at 27, but um, again, I'm glad to see that you're still doing music. That's probably my favorite part about doing these interviews is seeing that you guys are still doing music. You're still creating and still got a creative, you still got it in you to put stuff out. And that's what I look forward to.
Yeah, well, we're just going to keep doing it till we're dead, probably. Like one day we'll drop dead and we'll be in the middle of some record or something. But it's. I mean, I had very encouraging parents, and my mother came from an artistic family, so it's never this like notion of retiring or something. It doesn't really exist. It doesn't exist for us. It's that if you got ideas, you keep going. And for Martha and myself, we've never had any shortage of ideas. If anything, we could do, if we could clone ourselves, maybe we could get 10 projects done at a time.
Yeah.
And whether or not that's a good idea, I don't know. But we've still got a lot to do, I think.
Well, again, that's my favorite part, hearing that you have a lot you want to do still. And I love hearing that. It's my favorite thing about what I've been doing on this channel is finding out that, I think I just heard Honeymoon Suite has a new album coming out too. So it's great to see that they're still doing what they're doing and they still want to. So that's the best part about doing what I've been doing and
Well,
trying to
it's also, yeah, sorry, go on.
no, it's great that I'm doing a small part to shed some light on this, and that's what I intend to do.
Well, I was just going to say that because of people like you, Ellen, it's actually quite, I mean, it's not that we're going to stop doing it if we don't get attention, but to get people that are, genuinely interested in music in a deeper sense, uh, helping us, conversing about it and spreading the word is, it's deeply gratifying. So thank you, thank you. It's a great help to us. Otherwise, we'd be in a vacuum.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I can't believe I get to sit here and talk to you, actually. I was actually the first time I got to talk to you, I was really grateful that Martha sat in with us too. It was great to have her come in and do that as well. I really appreciated that as well. And I wish you guys nothing but the best. Um, so how do we get a hold of Garden Music? Is it available on all the usual ways? Is there like a physical copy you can buy as well?
Um, I'm about to add CDs to Bandcamp. I would say Bandcamp is the big one. I mean, particularly that they seem to be very artist oriented, and you'll find it on
Yes.
Apple Music and some others. I deliberately didn't put it on Spotify, and I didn't do it. I left it off well before we found out that Daniel Ek bought into an AI arms firm. Which I did it for other reasons because they pay so poorly, and I knew that Garden Music was never going to make enough
Right.
uh, numbers in streaming that it would amount to anything. And Spotify, we've had big issues with from a ethical sense of anyway. But so the fact that the CEO took, what was it, $700 million and put it into an AI drone company, which is the same technology that's murdering, Palestinian children every day.
Yeah.
Like that's unbelievable. So what we're doing, it's taking a bit of time, but we're pulling all of our stuff off Spotify that we control.
Right.
Um, the first three albums are still, controlled by big labels, and I
Right.
will be approaching them saying, we had no say over getting on Spotify anyway because you guys did secret deals
Right.
that artists didn't even know about. but I'm asking you to take it off. Now, whether they will or not, who knows? It just goes to show you like what kind of, cyber surf existences we have sometimes. But we're definitely pulling everything that we've put up on Spotify, and I've already notified CD Baby, take it off. And
Right.
it takes a bit of time, but so that was a long answer to your
Oh,
question.
it's
But
okay.
um, Bandcamp, Apple
Yeah,
Music, and I think there's probably about 10 or 20 others, that don't seem to be. Bandcamp is, I think, ethically, you
yeah.
know, really good. So that would be my first choice.
I was just gonna say, I really encourage I've recently dug into the whole Bandcamp thing because I interviewed Blair Packham. He uses Bandcamp. Jeff Kelly from Spirit of the West uses Bandcamp, and I really like because, like you said, they are very oriented, and a lot of the funds actually go right back to the artist, from what I've heard.
Yeah, no, it's the pay levels are way, way better than the streaming that you get on the bigger platforms. Yeah.
So yeah, I
Um,
encourage anyone out there, please use Bandcamp when it comes to this kind of stuff. I think I like putting money back into the artist's pocket if it's possible, or as much as possible. So yeah, I encourage anyone go to Bandcamp and buy from there. It's a great. I I I I heard about it earlier this year, and I really think that's great for the artist.
I did a I did a lot of research before deciding on them,
Hmm.
and they just seem to. I agree, they seem to be the best. And so far, I've got a modest start on there now, but I was looking around at the other artists that were on there, and I was impressed by who was on there, and I was impressed by all the sort of modus operandi that they work under. So hopefully it'll all work out. It's a lot better than Spotify, that's for sure. And I don't think they have any plans to buy an armaments company anytime
No,
soon. You know, um,
I'll leave links to that in the description of this video on YouTube for everybody to go to Bandcamp as well. So
yeah, it's just Mark. It's if you search garden music or Mark Gane on Bandcamp, it'll come up quite
uh,
easily. Yeah.
absolutely, I'll do that. I can't thank you enough for joining me again. It's great to talk to you again, Mark.
Likewise, Alan, it was a pleasure, and I'm sure we'll be doing it again.
I hope so. If you keep bringing up new stuff, I'm going to have to talk to you. If you don't mind, I'll have to talk to you even more. So,
Not at all. It was a pleasure.
all right, take care, Mark. All the best to you, sir.
Okay, you too.